Hello Stampers, welcome to another episode of Card Play. I shared a candle wax resist video with you about a week ago and showed this card and had a request to show how I created this rainbow background. And I'm actually going to do things a little bit differently than this one, just so I can show you another technique and another way that you can create this wax resist background. So let's get started. What we're actually going to use this time, instead of the textures plates, we are actually going to use one of the embossing folders. This is the vintage wallpaper embossing folder. And we're going to open it up. You'll see one side is raised and one side is what I'm going to call debossed. We're actually going to use this debossed side. So we're going to put that facing up. You're also going to need a candle. It can be a candle of any size. I happen to have this one lying around, so that's the one that I'm going to use. The other thing that you are going to need is a piece of Whisper White cardstock for this card, and this piece is 4 inches by 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is just place this piece of cardstock on top of the texture of this embossing folder, and then I'm just going to take my candle, and like I was doing a rubbing, I'm just going to rub against the cardstock, holding it in place while I rub and trying to make sure that I get every single part. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and start sponging. You can use regular sponges, you can use these very economical makeup sponges. That's what I'm actually going to use, and I cut them into itty bitty pieces so that they actually go quite far. We're going to start with some Baja Breeze ink, and let's open that up. And I think this was the Baja Breeze side, and I'm actually going to squeeze it a little bit so that I'm getting a piece of this sponge that doesn't have an edge. We're just going to ink it up and then start sponging in the corner, and you can already start to see that texture showing through and where we're getting the resist from the candle wax. Then we're going to come in with some certainly celery, and I actually did that on the opposite side of this sponge, so I'm just going to squeeze that again and ink it up, and we're going to start laying down the certainly celery. The next color I'm going to use is the Pretty in Pink, so I'm going to come in here with a new sponge, again squeeze it so that I'm not getting any of those edges, and ink that up. Come in here, and you can start to see where the pink overlaps the blue. We get a little bit of a purpley color, which is really nice. And I'm thinking I'd like to turn a little bit of this orange, so I'm going to come in and grab some Daffodil Delight. And let's go ahead and bring a little bit of that into this space here, and you can see the yellow, when it comes over that pink color, starts to turn a really pretty colored orange. And I want to create a little bit more of a purple color, so I'm going to come back in with a little bit more, oh, there it is, with a little bit more of my Baja Breeze over this pink color to give it a little bit more of a purpley look in places. Okay, now what we're going to do is set our ink aside, and we're going to use an iron to pull the wax off of the surface so that we can actually stamp on it. Right now, whatever we would stamp over this, these waxed areas would resist the ink, so we wouldn't get a clean image. You're just going to place your resist piece down on your ironing board, put a piece of scrap paper over it, and then we're going to iron. And what this heat does is it draws the wax right up off of the piece of cardstock. And we're just going to lift this piece of scrap paper, and you can see a little bit where the wax has come off of the cardstock. And if you feel your cardstock now, you won't feel any wax anymore. So you know you've done a great job. Now what I like to do is actually do some sponging around the edges. So I'm going to start with the Baja Breeze and just sponge around the edges, because now even the white spaces are going to pick up ink. And then I want to darken it some, so I'm actually going to come back in here with a little bit darker color. I'm going to go with Marina Mist to really make the edges pop a little bit more. So again, squeezing my little sponge, inking it up, and coming back with that darker color. And if you wanted to come in with a little darker color, you can do a little bit of sponging. So now what we're going to do with our panel is we're going to stamp our flowers on it. So I have this stamp from the Just Believe stamp set, and I'm going to grab some basic black classic ink, and we're going to go ahead and ink up this stamp. And then we're going to go ahead and stamp once. And this stamp, because it's a long one, you got to make sure you give it pressure kind of on the whole length of the stamp, otherwise you may miss some of your image. Oh, nice one. And then we're going to go ahead and ink up again. I'm going to stamp again, this time a little bit lower. And again, giving it some nice solid pressure. And lifting it up. Oh, so pretty. So now I'm going to set that aside and let it dry a little bit because that ink is a little bit wet. And I'm going to bring in a little scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to bring in the butterfly from the Dreams de Jour stamp set and my basic black ink again. We're going to go ahead and stamp that butterfly. And then what I want to do is cut that butterfly out. So I'm going to do that and I will be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cut out that butterfly. What I'm going to do now is grab my Bashful blue marker, and I'm just going to color in this butterfly. The body of the butterfly, I may use a different color, maybe a little, let's see, a little Sahara Sand, just to color in the body a little bit different color, but not too dark. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my two-way glue pen, and we're going to glue up his wings. Because, of course, I need to make my butterfly sparkly. So I'm going to pull in my dazzling diamonds. I keep it in a little container so it doesn't go everywhere. It still goes everywhere. I'm sure I'll have glitter all over my face and body and clothing and craft room and dog by the time I'm done. And we're just going to tap that off. And now we've got a really nice sparkly butterfly. Let's seal that dazzling diamonds because we don't want that to tip over. Now what we are going to do is grab our card base. This is Sahara Sand 4 1/4 by 11, and I've gone ahead and scored it and folded it in half. We're going to bring in our lovely panel, which appears to be pretty dry now, and I'm actually going to use some Tombow Mono multi-glue to adhere this panel down. I continue to like using this, and you really don't need a lot at all. You need very, very little. I actually have the tip touching the cardstock, and that way not a lot comes pouring out on me. And then we're going to go ahead and place that on our card, center it as best we can, and press. Now what we are going to do is place our little butterfly on our card. So I'm just gonna, you can see I stamped the back of this piece of cardstock. I didn't like the little butterfly I did first, so I re-stamped him. Never want to waste a piece of cardstock. We're just going to place that butterfly down. Once he's dry, you can lift his wings a little bit more even. And the last thing we need to do is add a greeting. So for this card, I think I'm going to use the Birthday Wishes greeting from the Sincere Salutations stamp set. And I'm going to use my Stamp-A-Ma-Jig since I don't trust myself at this point to get this straight. And I actually have already stamped the imaging sheet. So I'm going to bring that in here and place this where I think it will look good. And then I'm going to bring in my corner and place that down. And then I am going to remove that and bring in my ink, basic black. I'm going to ink that up and stamp with some nice even pressure. And there you have it. A really pretty rainbow background, really fun to make. A lot of sponging involved. You can go crazy with this technique. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Card Play, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon here in the craft room.